go over a few of these just so you kind of know what's going on, right? So with these expanded form, if I'm looking back to my notes, how to learn expanded form looks like. What does expanded form look like? Where are we at? Oh, here we go. Expanded form looks like this right here. See how they did expanded form here? Here is also expanded forms. We can refer back. We know if we call this 4 million, I have to write out the number 4 million. And then I have to say plus, move on to the next one. I'm not writing anything for that. I can skip right to the 2. This is worth 20,000, so I would write 20,000, right? Plus, this is worth 1,000, so I'm writing 1,000. This is page 3 in your packet, should be done. If not, be sure you're writing quickly. This 9 is worth 900, and this 4 is worth 40. There's nothing in the ones place, so then we're done. So that's what you should have done for 1, 2, and 3. 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all the same. If I look at number 7, what is the value of 8? And number B, this value is 8,000. If it asked you for the place value, you could say the thousands place, right? Which numbers have a 7 in the hundreds place? So I'm looking in the hundreds place, the hundreds place, the hundreds place. There's only one with a number in the hundreds place, and that is the letter D. We find it? Oh, good. All right, so same thing with 9 and 10 and 11. These last few, 12, 60 more, 12 through 16, you're looking for that place. If it's 40,000 less, I'm looking at number B. 40,000 less, I'm finding the 10,000s place and subtracting 10 from it. So for number 12, you should have said 608,004. Now, some of my friends were like, I really need a piece of paper to write this down. The whole point in you knowing your place values is so that you could do this in your head, right? So if I wanted, let's look at 15, 300,000 more than number C. I'm looking at number C. I'm looking at the place of the 100,000 place right here. And I need 3 more than that. So I'm adding 3 to 1. So this becomes 2,453,640. Does that make sense with those examples? I'm just doing 1 or 2 of each of these so you kind of see what you're supposed to do, and you can check your work to be sure you weren't way off. Again, these pages should be done. This is page 4. Write each number in standard form. So maybe 19, 1 million. You know, if you see a comma in the words, there should be a comma in your number. 92,000. Well, I don't have anything in the 100,000s place, so I have to hold that with a 0. Then I'm writing the 92 before my comma, and then 14. Again, I don't have anything in this hundreds place, just the 14. Okay, so those are a little tricky. I think the hardest one, I don't know. These all look okay. I think you could do these, but I'll do 24, 8 million. 8 million. Remember, if there's a comma in the number, there's a comma after the word. 20,000. So I'm going to write 20,000. And then there's a comma there as well. 815. So I'm just writing 815. So hopefully you were able to write all of those in word form. All right, comparing values. Again, we're going from left to right. Notice in 25, these have the same number of digits, but in 26, this one has more digits in it. So this is 40 million and this is 8 million, which is bigger? The 40 million. And this would have been greater than, this is less than. All right, so 27, all they were asking you to do is put them in order from least to greatest. So the least one should have been this $508,710. And the greatest should have been the 513, is that right? 513 and $5, $500,013, $5. And then, so between them, you would have this 508,770, then the 512,495, then the 512,830 before the 513. So hopefully you've got those in order, okay? Rounding, this is the one I'm gonna go over half of instead of just one, because these, I think, are the trickiest for you. Remember, we find the place. So the 100,000th place is right here. Then we look to the right of it. If it's more than 5, we round it up so that 7 becomes an 8. Everything after it turns to a 0 and the number in front of it comes down. Again, if we're looking at the tens place, we find it, look to the right. If that number is 5 or more, that rounds up. So the 1 turns to a 2. Everything after it becomes 0, but in this case, everything before it comes down. So this 5, 4, 1. Okay, millions place here. We find the millions. We look to the right. If it is less than 5, it stays the same. So that 8 is going to stay the same. Everything after it is turning to a 0, and the number in front of it comes straight down. Okay. Last one, as we look at the thousands place, we look to the right. It's less than 5, so it stays the same. Everything after it should be a 0. Everything in front of it comes down. Okay. So you're locating the place value and deciding if you're rounding up or keeping it the same. Everything after that place value should be 0. So here, everything after the 100 should be 0. Everything after the 100 million should be 0. Everything after the 10,000 should be 0. And everything after the 10 million should be 0. All right, so that's 3 and 4. Remember, if you do not have these done yet, that is homework that does need to be done outside of class. We have had quite a bit of time to be working on that. If you need some help, always let me know. The sooner, the better if you're getting stuck. All right, we're going to add. You ready for some notes, some practice? All right. So the result when adding numbers is called the sum. That's the name of the answer to an addition problem. Sum. Sum what? You're not distracted. All right, when we are adding, we have to line up our values. So I have to rewrite this vertically. I would write 28,485. I do kind of spread out my numbers a little bit more than it looks like in their font, right? Just so I have a little more space. And then I would write my plus sign here. I notice that they have the same number of digits, 5 and 5, right? So these should be right under these. All right. We use standard addition, so we would say 5 plus 8 is 13. I would bring the 3 down, but the 1 I have to carry to the tens place. So I would say 8 plus 2 is 10, plus that 1 makes 11. So I would bring my 1 down and carry the 1 over, and then I have another 10, right? 6 and 4 is 10, plus that 1 makes another 11. I'm carrying the 1. 8 and 3 is actually 11, plus that 1 that we carried over makes what? 12. And then 4 and 2 is 6, plus that 1 makes 7. If you are still using your fingers to count on and add, go to the dollar store, get some flashcards. You gotta get quicker at this. I promise I'm not doing magic. I'm just fluent in my addition. Then you should be fluent in your subtraction. Once you're fluent in addition and subtraction, you should be fluent in what? Multiplication. If you're not fluent in multiplication, you gotta get there this year. This is the year, right? Everything is going to build off of those skills. So this is our number. Looks reasonable, right? Always ask yourself this. Now, with this next one, I notice this has 5 numbers and this has 6. So I'm going to write this first number, 15,821. And I have to be careful not to start my 7 right here, because I really want my 4 to be under that, because that's in the 10,000s place. So I have to start 1 over. I want to line up my 1s with my 1s, my 10s with my 10s, my 100s with my 100s, my 1000s with my 1000s, my 10,000s with my 10,000s. And in this case, only one of them has 100,000. A number in that place value. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. 1 plus 3 is, you can just say it, 4. 2 plus 5 is 7. 8 plus 6 is 14. So I got to bring up that 1. It becomes 1,000. So 8 and 5, that was a little tricky, but you should know is 13. 13 plus 1 makes 14. Carry the 1. 4, 5, 6, and bring down your 7. So hopefully that looks pretty reasonable. All right, go ahead and try to line these up. And this number 1 is just like example number 1. They have the same number of digits, you can line them up. This number 2 looks a lot like example 2. They have a different number of digits, so be a little bit more careful as you line them up. All right, go ahead and try numbers 1 and 2 there if you have not already. Yes, I promise that there is reason for my madness, right? We show our work because it helps us to think through the proper process, avoids making simple mistakes, allows me to see where you went wrong if you went wrong, allows you to see where I went wrong if I go wrong, right? I'm gonna make mistakes too. But we got to show our work because we want to see your thinking. And these problems are going to get more difficult. We're going to be adding things like decimals to them. We're going to be adding things like fractions to them. They're going to get more complicated. So practice the process. I'm not just like making you do this because I want you to write more numbers, although I think it is good for you to use your hands, right? I think it is good for you to practice your handwriting. We might have to spend a few minutes every day writing the alphabet over and over again so your handwriting gets better and you get more fluent and you're a better note taker and you're a better learner and you're a better, right? The goal is to get better over and over, right? So here, hopefully you rewrote the problem vertically. That's our first step. You lined up the 1s with the 1s, the 10s with the 10s. The 100s with the 100s and the 1000s with the 1000s. And then we're going from right to left. 2 plus 2 is? 3 plus 9 is? So I carried the 1. 5 and 8 is 13. Plus that 1 makes 14. 6 and 4 is 10. Plus that 1 makes 11. So hopefully you got 11,424. And you know how to write it in expanded form, right? 10,000 plus 1,000 plus 400 plus 20 plus 4. You know how to write it in words, right? If you can say it, you can write it in words. All right, here, this one was a little trickier, so be very careful with this one, because when I rewrite it, I have to make sure my 6 is in line with my 1, not my 1s. And then 239. 7 and 9 makes 16. 3 and 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Bring down your 2. This is 7 and 1. Hopefully you got 17,276. All right, so then it just changes to word problems. If you can do this, you can do these, right? Chloe bought a car with this many miles. She's putting this many more miles. So we're finding the total. We're adding this plus this, that gives us our sum. So I'm just rewriting the problem. 42,395. 15,953. Right? Then I'm going to add that up. Let's come back to it. The number of tourists. Here's 1 year. Here's another year. How many tourists were there in 2016? So if it was this and then it increased by that, we're going to take this and add this. So 262,392 plus that 17,283. All right, don't do that quite yet. We're going to come back to it. Let's write out the last two before we add these babies up. The gross sales, here they are in the same weekend. The total would be adding them together. So I'm writing 1,503,359. And then here I have to be careful. I don't want to start my 7 right here. I need to start my 7 in the 100,000s place. So I'm starting it here. 778,239. So there's another problem we're going to practice adding together. And finally, the last one. We're trying to find the original mortgage amount before he paid this, so we can add these two together to find it. So we have 31,395. And then here, be careful not to start the 2 right here. It needs to go in the 100,000s place. So then that 17,000 comes after. 597. Go ahead and add these up, and then most, if not all of these, I should say, have units to them. So I want to see what kind of units. A couple of them are just money. I think one might be people and one might be miles. Go ahead and practice adding those babies up. All right, we are getting close to running out of time, but we've got a minute to go over these. So 5 and 3 we should know is 8. 9 and 5 is 14. So I'm carrying the 1. If you want, you can think 9 and 1 is 10, plus that 3 makes 13. Doesn't matter what order you add things in, right? 1, 2 is 3, plus 5 is 8, and 4 and 1 makes 5. Now this, we're answering in miles, because we want to know the total mileage. This next one, we're answering in people. So let's figure out how many people, or how many tourists, we could say. 2 and 3 makes 5. 9 and 8 is 17. 5 plus 1 is 6. 2 and 7 is 9. 7 and 2. Did we get that? Awesome. 9 and 9 here makes 18. 5 and 3 makes 8 plus 1 more is 9. 5. 11. 8. 12. And 2. If you're not quite this fast, you probably need to practice. Flashcards. All right, 5 and 7 makes 12. 9 and 9 is 18, plus 1 is 19. 3 and 1 is 4, plus 5 is 9. Another 9 there. And then 8, 4, and 2. So this one was money. And this one was also money. Number 6 is probably a much more complicated problem because they're not talking about interest there, but all right, so let's look at what is to come. Tomorrow we're going to subtract. Actually, we might just add tomorrow. We might practice our adding on page 7. I think that's what we might do. We might slow our roll a tad before jumping to subtracting. We might practice our adding and then we'll do subtraction the next day. All right. All right. If you are keeping your